It's time for the big game. It's time to see if TLO can advance through in first place. This is a massive match room. There's a lot of people here in the crowd. If you can obviously feel it back at home, cheering for TLO. I'm joined by the Protoss brothers here, both taller than me. I feel like the short guy on the end of the table right now. Todd and Rotterdam. A pretty fun day so far, boys.
Very fun. I think these results, almost nobody would have predicted it. I mean, the last series, okay, I guess most people would still pick Pold over Major, but the first two series of the day, it's still nuts. It still surprises me. And I think we've seen a lot of good games. Like even the very first game of the day, you know, Elazer on Echo, that's just like, you look at it, it's back and forth. There's a lot of things going on. You're like, that's just a fun game of StarCraft. I want to see more of that. And I think we have seen more of that.
Over the years, Todd, I mean, you've cast WCS since day one. You cast the very first official game of Premier League. There's these upsets that happen all the time, every single season. Nothing goes as expected. What do you think that is? Is it the format, the best of three, the prestige of the tournament gets to the players?
I think StarCraft is just super competitive. Like these guys, they take the game very seriously. Like TLO, WCS, it's like literally his life and all he's been thinking about for the last 2 weeks. So he prepared accordingly, and it really showed in his games. He actually played insanely well. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much comes down to that. Like the same thing can be said about Pods, but maybe he overlooked his first opponent here a bit.
Sorry, Todd, you got a little bit of well, I'd help you out, bro. Roddy,
yes.
Elazer's confident. TLO's confident. TLO tweeted, right, Todd?
Yeah, right after Elazer beat Showtime, actually, TLO is always very vocal about how much he likes ZvZ. So he tweeted something like more Zerg in WCS, and he posted a picture of Hannibal Lecter, which if I was Elazer, I wouldn't have been happy to read that. And now he's facing Elazer here. Surely, like, he has to be confident, but at the same time, Elazer seems very confident himself.
Yeah, Elazer came into the day, despite being nervous, he was very confident from the very first match. He said, you know, we even saw the slit throat from the very first match against Major. He was quite confident yet shy when he came up in the winner's interview. He's got that kind of special spot. He called himself Life, the European Life.
Did he say that?
Yeah, in the winner's interview. I said, go on, not too many people know much about you. How would you describe your playstyle? European Life.
I love it, man. And I do think, like, let's go back to the fact that this is a ZvZ and that Dario has obviously been confident in this matchup. Like, we all remember season 1 where he said, like, bring on anyone, even Life, you know, and like Hydra eventually was proved to be too much. But I also think if you look at Elazer, right, if you think about other very strong players in Poland, you think of obviously Nerdshow, and he's played a lot against him. You think of Tifal as well. Yeah. And then, of course, there is Mana. But the fact that there are 3 very strong Zergs in Poland, that probably means he has played quite a few ZvZ over the years, and I think that means that this is a matchup that he at least has a lot of experience in, and probably feels pretty confident in as well.
I don't know if you guys can hear that, but these guys are giggling back there doing this map feast. I don't know what's going on behind the stage. TLO's coming out laughing and smiling. They're in high spirits back up there, Roddy.
If we open up with Cactus Valley and Inferno Pools, we know why they're giggling.
If you say that he's like Live, by the way, it's probably more like Stefano than Live, because that's something Stefano would say.
That is. Here are the map order, guys. Echo, Coder, and Expedition.
Well, I guess we can get right on that and talk about it when we throw to the casters, because Pig's going to be casting.
Yeah, no, I think one thing that even we can pick out is that we've got 2-player maps each time, right?
Roddy, you're a bit of a ZvZ expert, right?
I wouldn't really go that far, Todd. That's a little bit of a stretch. Nah, but like I've been watching a lot of ZvZs and you cast a lot of them. But the fact that we only see 2-player maps, that pretty much means what we were just talking about, that both these guys are pretty confident. They're like, I don't want to play 4-player map. I don't want to have the chance that I miscount my opponent and I die against some sort of a random cheese. Like, no, let's just play the 2-player map so we both know what we're dealing with. And you know, if anything crazy is going to happen, well, then it will come down to the build orders. But at least there is always an option to scout it. I think it's going to be fun, man. Like, I'm going into this and I have no idea who the favorite is. Like, looking at the past, maybe TLO, but Elazer, like especially his macro in that first series of the day, on point, absolutely on point. Like, he was never floating too much, always had those extra bailings ready. Like, I think this could be a very entertaining
TLO
series.
beat Polt. On one hand, you have Elazer who played impressively, but TLO beat Polt. Like,
I don't know. Like, I think this is going to be very fun for us. I think it's going to be very fun for the audience over here. And
it's Elazer's living the dream right now, you know. He's won his challenger match against Showtime 3 games to 1. He's taken down Major in his first match. He's got a perfect record, obviously, in his debut tournament here.
Like, those are two pretty big names as well. Showtime was one of the hottest players in WCS Premier League Season 1, and looking at the Challenger match, Showtime even picked him. He's like, yeah, I'll play against Elazer in Challenger. That seems pretty doable. And he defeated that, and you looked at those games, and obviously you never want to take something away from a big victory of a young player, but like, as well as Elazer played in that series, Showtime didn't play as well as we all know he could play. Like, a couple of very uninspiring builds, but today against Major, nothing of that was true. Like, it was just Elazer playing some very, very good StarCraft. So I really don't know like how high to rate him right now, but you know, maybe the sky's the limit.
It's quite funny. I mean, you look at both these players. The last question here, or last kind of talking point, is that TLO, round of 8 last season. TLO has played in every single Premier League since the opening in 2013, versus a guy who's just jumped up on the stage for the very first time and is on a hot streak right now. But when you weigh them both together, surely you're looking at TLO, especially with his recent, confidence in ZvZ as the favorite, and of course a crowd pleaser as well.
I think so, but let's not forget he got 3-0'd by Hydra last season, so definitely not.
There's a big difference between Hydra and Elazer, though, right? Or is
there should be, but I don't know. Elazer played very impressively. So I mean, on paper, you have two players that played a fantastic first match. Then TLO beat Nurcho in Challenger. I spoke a little bit earlier with Elazer, and he was telling me I asked him if he's the best Zerg in Poland, and he told me that he loses a lot to Nurcho. So he thought maybe not.
He also said it was maybe a little bit of a mental block because Nurcho's kind of like the guy in Poland. You know, he has been for such a long time, kind of a national hero. And that he's like, I've never defeated him in a match that truly matters. But then it's also like on a certain point it becomes mental, and especially ZvZ, which is a pretty mental matchup. Like, I think, his record against Nurcho, that shouldn't really have much of an impact going into this series against TLO. Like, just look at him, and he looks relaxed. He's ready to play some StarCraft.
All right, thanks very much, gentlemen. Either way, one of these men on stage has a golden opportunity, with Pult being eliminated or pushed down, to the lower bracket and having to play for the decider. Whoever loses this has to go up against Pult. A golden opportunity to play in Canada and represent either Poland or Germany. Your commentary team for this one is going to be Kalaris, joined by our resident expert Pig for the Zerg vs. Zerg.
All right, thanks very much, guys, as we get into our Zerg vs. Zerg. And as I said at the very beginning of all of this, it's kind of been flipped on its head, really. I really never expected these two Zergs to be in this position, considering the makeup of the group.
It's absolutely insane. I always like to say, don't count anyone out. Yeah. But there's always that little bit of, hope. It's like, yeah, maybe the underdogs can do it. And this time we've seen both, I wouldn't say, I guess, necessarily. Elazer was a bit of a wild card, but still beating Major, very big win. And then TLO taking down the reigning champion. I think this is just a massive, massive win for him. And I think this match especially is going to be really cool. We've seen one matchup from both TLO and Elazer, but can they carry that over into the Zerg vs. Zerg matchup? Are they good all around right now, or are those some, one-offs?
That's an interesting question, especially for that man on screen right now, because TLO, we can quote him, he said in Season 1, bring on life, I don't really care. And then he proceeded to lose to Hydra. But is his ZvZ really that good here, Pig? Is he really that powerful in this matchup at the moment?
I think TLO's a really dangerous player because he's not your conservative type. He's very aggressive, likes a lot of different builds. Interestingly, though, for map 1, he's picked Echo. Now, that's a little bit telling because it's a bit harder to be aggressive on that map. Now, that's both in the early stages. If you're doing some sort of Zergling, Baneling, running up the ramp into the natural is very narrow. Gasless builds, wall-offs, spine crawlers can defend really well. And likewise, when you're on 3 bases, it's very hard. So maybe TLO's changing up from his more aggressive early game dynamic style. Maybe he's pushing for that later stage. Elazer, on the other hand, is picking the more standard map, Coda. So it only gives us a little indication into what these players want to do. But if I go off memory from, I've played both these guys before, both on ladder and in tournaments. I think TLO is probably the one who's a little bit more willing to play around with the Ling Bane, maybe upgraded Zerglings, maybe some surprise Mutalisks. Whereas if memory serves, I played Elazer quite a bit last year. He may have changed up a lot, but he was playing a lot of mass Roach style. He was very strong with it.
So another thing that we see from Team Liquid Zerg, especially in Snoop, for example, is you were saying that before on Echo, this could be potentially defensive style for someone like TLO here, as he's picked it, going against his norm. Is that something like being able to greet the first wave, say with having earlier evolution chambers and trying to play around that, and then going for the counter attack from that point on. How do you go about a more defensive style in Zerg vs Zerg?
It's really interesting because there are so many choices. You can still go for these very generic forms of aggression. It's just if your opponent's playing safe, there's the chance that it's a lot easier for them to shut it down.
Yeah.
We saw in Hydra vs Snoot, they both played Echo in their first map, and they both opted for identical builds, playing very defensive, gasless, using the wall-offs. So those sort of wall-offs definitely can deflect the aggression very cheaply, very efficiently, and get you ahead. On the other hand, though, it really comes down to the player's preference. Sometimes both players play gas, and the only real change in the early stage is, well, the ramp's a bit narrower, but you can still attack up there with Banelings. There's still a lot of options open, and it comes down to the stylistic choices and how these players want to play it.
Yeah. Do you expect to see anything wild in the Mutalist variety, or is it all just roach at the moment here in the mid-game?
You know, knowing Dario, I think he's definitely someone who likes to mix in the Mutalisks every now and then.
Yeah.
I think they're a great unit to throw out there. I think if you're very predictable going Mutalisks every game, that's where they become an issue because, you know, it can be very hard to stop a Roach Baneling. If your opponent knows Mutalisks are coming, they can kind of prepare for it. It's partly the surprise and, you know, the fact that you need to kind of have a build catered towards the Mutalisks to get ahead versus them, which can be their Achilles heel. So I think it comes down to, you know, what these guys want to do. I'm just absolutely excited to see. And when it comes to Zerg versus Zerg, I think this is a matchup. A lot of people out there, they have the misconception, which I think is rife in the StarCraft community, that this matchup is a little bit gambly, maybe even a little bit random, and a bit not based on skill, a bit of a coin flip. I'm hoping that, you know, throughout this cast, I can kind of focus on a few of those smaller aspects, and hopefully we can get away from that assumption.
I hope so too, man. I hope so too. That's why you are here, that's for sure. And may I say, you've been doing a fantastic job over at the analysis desk so far. It's been great to have you here so far, Pig.
It's an honor to be over here. You know, getting knocked out and still getting a chance to come here and watch these games. You know, it's something as a player, you're so focused on learning and your own progression.
Yeah.
But when you get to come and actually watch these games, commentate, talk about them, it's just such an enriching experience for my own game knowledge. And it just makes me, you know, absolutely appreciate the amazing event that is the World Championship Series.
Yeah, it's very great to have you here. It's nice to have a little bit of a diversity in our lineups as well. It's great to bring you guys along. But anyway, the countdown has begun for game number 1 here between Elazer and TLO. One of these players who have done so well in their previous series are going to be advancing on to the round of 16. TLO has already been there. But for that man on screen right now, Elazer, it would be an absolute wonder if he is able to go on to Toronto. By far the biggest achievement he has so far here in the round of 32 for him. If he goes on to the round of 16, who knows what could happen. So we have spawning down at the bottom right-hand corner. It's our red Zerg, representing Team Extreme Supremacy. It is Elazer. And up to the top left-hand corner, of course, we have our homegrown hero here in Germany. It is Liquid TLO.
You can hear that roar from the crowd there. There is so much support for TLO. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this game goes. You know, what's impressed me the most about Elazer so far, I think, is his confidence. You know, he's got very good, strong mechanics, but he does kind of remind me a little bit of a young life coming in, you know, not really too well known of, and just saying, yeah, I'm going to beat everyone. You know, maybe coming through, going for that Royal Road attempt on the World Championship.
That would be pretty impressive, that would. I mean, regardless of what happens from this point on, the fact that he beat Showtime and Challenger and then Major in his first series of the day, I'm already impressed. It's that simple. I'm already impressed by what we've been seeing from him. And going up against TLO, if he's able to topple another Titan, well, sky's the limit, man. Sky's the limit.
Oh yeah, and already we can see in this game, you know, no early pools, no crazy shenanigans just yet. And we're about to come up to that point where we say, who wants to play really safe? Who wants to go for that spawning pool first? And does one of them want to go for that hatchery first? We see TLO choosing the more conservative option, going for that spawning pool, and Elazer, on the other hand, going down and going for that hatchery first. So we see Elazer, you know, this is typical of the younger, newer player, right? Taking a few more risks going into it.
Yeah.
TLO saying, I'm going to do a nice solid opening here. No chances from me.
And from here on a map like Echo, what is the significance of both players being able to see the second Overlord nice and quick at a normal time?
They're both just going to feel very safe seeing that second Overlord as it comes into vision just about now. And that just tells you he's built a 9 Overlord. There's no early Zerglings. There's no shenanigans. And I think Elazer, even more than TLO, is going to be quite happy about that, having gone for the hatchery first. But both players do end up in a relatively equal situation. What's important here to look at is that gas timing. Elazer's gas going down around, around that 17 supply mark, and TLO's gas not even begun yet. So we might see what we were talking about before, TLO opting for the sort of gasless, efficient defense. And what'll be interesting is, does Elazer go for some sort of gun-ho charge up the ramp, or is this more of a map control into a faster third base, or perhaps Mutalisks?
Now, in theory, if TLO did go for something like a gasless style against this, what are the things, what are the precautions he needs to be taking? Because obviously it leaves you in quite an odd spot, I would say.
Yeah, you don't have that flexibility, right? And we do see a gas go down now for TLO, but it's almost 4 minutes. By the time a Ling speed finishes, it's going to be something like 7 minutes. So the more standard follow-up from this sort of gas timing from TLO would be very much what we saw Snoot and Hydra do yesterday. It used to actually be called the Snoot build back in late 2012, where you go for that fast lair, the fast upgrade straight for Roaches. So TLO is going to be relying on a very fast Evolution Chamber and Roach Warren, and probably a fast third, maybe even a fast fourth Queen to defend against any Zergling pressure.
Well, for now, they're just going to position their Overlords in the middle of the map, and that will always give them good vision unless, for example, Queens start walking out into the middle and trying to push away the first Overlords or something like that. And Baneling Nest already on the way here for Elazer.
That's a nice fast one as well. So Elazer, he hasn't actually seen too much of what TLO is up to, and this Baneling Nest could be used very aggressively. If he is going to go for that sort of Ling Baneling move, he's going to stop drone production, and we're going to see those Zerglings start to queue up very, very soon. Of course, TLO, though, he's in the base. He's scouting with this Zergling, and it's very important that he sees that fast Baneling Nest. He knows there's a possibility of that, and we immediately see a Spine Crawler drop on his side of the map, taking no chances here.
Yeah. I mean, the Spine Crawler, not only seeing the Baneling Nester, of course, but like seeing how much was still in gas, I figure that's, a pretty good response here to what he's seeing from Elazer.
Absolutely, and it does partly come back to, something I didn't mention before is that pull first for TLO. He had the Queen out early, the Zergling out. Elazer didn't get to see what was going on, so he's kind of built the Baneling Nest. He's even making 2 Banelings defensively. He's playing really safe here, and TLO's actually, there's no threat of TLO attacking. TLO's playing purely defensively as well. So I think TLO will get the better end of this here. Nice, clean wall off. He's just going to be going pure drones behind this. But Elazer, he's not committing too hard. He's making the Banelings there, coming out with the Zerglings. He sees, I can't really do too much, but this is okay.
Is that a completely full wall off?
I do believe so.
Right, okay, so he's completely airtight here at the moment.
I think we'll see that Evolution Chamber cancel there. Or not, no. TLO just playing it very safe, maybe even a little bit overly safe there. But nonetheless, you can just take down that Evo chamber lately. That's sort of his insurance policy. He's saying, I'm not going to take those chances, and Elazer opting for that fast third base, the Evolution Chamber, the lair. So what we're going to see here is, of course, TLO's got the faster upgrades, the faster lair. He's going to have a really nice Roach speed timing with +1. But Elazer's going to be doing the same thing, just slower, and he's going to be seeing if he can eke out that advantage with the faster third base.
Do you think the third base being as quick as it is here is a very cool response from Elazer, considering that he saw the airtight wall off and the very defensive setup, and after he didn't see anything in the main base, he's thinking, well, there's no pressure that can really hit this third base for now.
Absolutely. I think it's a fantastic move. If you like your Roach play, and I know Elazer does, this is the best way to play it. And notice how TLO, look, he's just breaking out of his natural. These Zerglings are still here. It's very hard for TLO to protect his natural wall and get a third hatchery down. So what we see is he's already building Roaches, getting Roach speed, and Elazer needs to be very careful to not over-drone here. Notice he's got about 7 more workers. He's at about 50 drones. He can't build any more workers or he will just die to that Roach timing. But it looks like Elazer knows his business. Look at this, just running in circles here, delaying that third base. And behind this, we are seeing Roaches out of him, so he should be very well prepared to make use of this extra economy, and he should be able to hang on against TLO's Roach push.
I saw a lot of Roaches there. Extra supply being evened up here for TLO as well, so he can continue on with those numbers if he really wants to and start pushing across the map. What are the numbers like at the moment? 13 against 6. Should the reinforcement point here be enough for Elazer, or is that quite a lot for TLO?
Oh, it's always so close in this scenario. You see he's pulling the Queens down. He's got a couple of Banelings. He does have the Speedlings in there to support. That is going to help buffer here, but it's always very, very close in this scenario. Notice, though, TLO's droning behind this, so he wants to to get a good trade. He needs to get a good trade to kind of catch up, but it's not all in by any means. He is transitioning behind it. And look at this, not even committing. TLO actually just saying, I'm not going to risk it.
Yeah. So far, whose position are you really liking here? Elazer looks pretty well set up.
I think I'd give a small edge to Elazer, but if we do look at that +2 timing, that's very important. When that +2 range kicks in for roaches, they start to take an extra less hit to kill the enemy roaches. So TLO with a fast carapace as well, even though he's been a little bit behind in his mining efficiency, I think he's going to be able to catch up with those upgrades. It's still a very even game at this point. This is the sort of game where it looks like both player doesn't want to mess around taking too many chances. They're just kind of like, I'm going to get my roaches out this way. I'm going to get my roaches out this way.
Well, the roaches are on the move out here for Elazer now, who actually rocketed up to 25 roaches against 23, which, considering that he had the better economy and the Ling run by straight on into the main, really exploiting the fact that the roaches are just not quick enough to really be able to spawn that quickly. If he could get queens, that would be great to actually limit some production. And he even catches a few of these roaches off guard because other roaches were having to run up into the main to clean things up.
And the Lings come back into the main base. They ran away for a second. TLO looked back and said, oh, they must be dead. Pulled the queen out of the gap, and those Lings are in there causing havoc. Meanwhile, the roaches coming back in from Elazer, and Elazer's not really committing here. He's just picking off little bits here and there. This is great. Look at the supply. We can see he's taking a bit of an edge there. He's got a nice drone cannon. Those Lings are still wreaking havoc in that main base. TLO has got to be very upset about this.
Yeah, any drone he gets is great. 5 kills. I mean, he was already ahead in the economy, never mind how that's played out. So now, how does TLO kind of counteract this? Yes, you said before he has +2 weapons finishing up quickly. And he's actually got the infestation pit on the way. Are these things that are enough to even it up here for TLO?
The infestation pit's a bit of an odd choice. I got to say, I think maybe it's a little bit too fast for that, because with those drone losses, he can't really afford to go up to 6 gases. He should be worried about the big roach attack that could be coming. You know, you've taken some damage. You're already with a slower third.
Yeah.
And I think if he rushes to infestors, he might, you know, he's getting roaches picked off. He might actually just die to a roach timing. TLO just needs to hang on. He needs to defend, and he needs to play very carefully here, because look at that supply lead. Elazer taking a 30 supply lead. He's got a big number of roaches, and I think he's going to be looking to hit with a maxed out army and his +2 range.
50 against 39 at the moment, with 13 extra popping. Obviously, TLO is distributing his gas everywhere, Passion Glanzam as well as Burrow, to try and counteract these swelling numbers here by Elazer. But you're right, it looks like, you know, Max is coming soon here for Elazer. Of course, the Carapace did finish for TLO, but obviously it only has a 1+1 as opposed to weapons, which is +2. So it's not the most massive of deals.
And look at this timing that's coming. It's not going to make a massive difference. And Elazer's droning behind this. This isn't completely all in, but it's just such a hard time. He's up about 20 roaches here, and these infestors aren't out yet. I mean, it's a tight area. It's a good area for TLO to defend, but when you're outnumbered this much, it might not be enough. Oh, luckily for TLO, Elazer not being too confident. I actually think that was his moment, and every second that goes by, TLO's catching up in that supply count. He's getting more roaches out. He's got more chance to survive, and infestors are coming out. They've got pathogen glands. It might be too late for Elazer to push in here.
And tunneling close as well as Burrow's on the way. That's a good fungal growth on the left-hand side to start things. It really limits the amount of concave that we can see here from Elazer. TLO has a small supply count advantage at the moment, but that is rapidly taken away here as Elazer continues to push on. Another good fungal growth up towards the top, and now Elazer is going to try and divide and conquer. He's actually going for the Roach Roaring briefly there. If he could have killed that off, he could have denied a lot of reinforcements, but he's still taking a pretty cool trade.
So decisive from Elazer, moving in like that. He actually managed to get the concave. He stole the position advantage from TLO. The fight's starting to turn around now, though. Elazer has stayed a little bit too long. He took a great trade for a moment, but then in the tail end with those reinforcements wrapping around, it turned upside down. Elazer maybe macroing up at home, focusing on that a bit too much. I think he missed his timing to take the damage, take the good trade, and pull out.
Yeah, it really looks like it now. As well, I mean, we've talked time and time again about how those reinforcements can really turn the tide of battle. And in the end there, they did. TLO holds on. Not up in the supply at the moment. Obviously, Elazer is still committed heavily to the roaches, but at least TLO has the tech advantage, right?
Absolutely, those infestors are fantastic, and that fast 4th base, it doesn't make too much of a difference. We noticed that, you know, Elazer's only at about that 63, 64 drones. He's adding a few drones for that 4th base, but in Zerg vs Zerg, it's very dangerous to drone up above about 63, 64, because you need a lot of army supply, and especially when you're looking at Roach vs Roach, it gets very dangerous. If your opponent has 5 or 6 more roaches than you, if they get a positional advantage, you can lose a fight very drastically.
Yeah, it kind of snowballs out of control, even with those minute numbers in your favor, but trying to burrow on him. He does have vision there because of that Spore Crawler in the middle, so cleaned up those roaches quite rapidly. Likewise, a small attack on the left-hand side. Elazer has found no holes just yet in TLO's defense.
Yeah, he's gone for that tunneling clause. A bit of an odd choice on Echo because it is quite easy to defend, and TLO was prepared. It was more of a sort of surprise maneuver. But what does Elazer get out of that is, I think, the ability to fight on the map. If TLO comes out, it's very dangerous, it's very scary. The Infestors might not be able to get the fungals, but Elazer needs to realize there's a fourth base down here. He needs to shut it down. TLO is actually looking like he wants to take a fight, coming down with a very nice flank, some beautiful fungals on that left-hand side.
Yeah, he forced himself into quite the scary position there to Elazer, and TLO is having to take this fight for now, making sure that he can protect that base down towards the bottom. And how well will these fungals actually do? There's a few left over on these Infestors. I think he's losing the pure roach to roach, but if he has reinforcements coming down from the top, he should be able to push this back. And it looks like, well, he does get the better end of that engage.
It's funny, you know, it looked very close for a while there, but then we saw all those roaches that were damaged from the fungal growth started to drop very quickly, and TLO was up in army supply. Elazer taking a fight there when he was actually down 20 supply overall. You can imagine he actually had a great position, but he was just down so far in army supply in the engagement. It didn't turn out in his favor, and he's now very far down in supply. He's trying to buy time. He's still trying to take fights sort of front on, but it's looking a little bit desperate, and TLO playing so patiently here. He's intercepting the roaches at every turn. He's shutting them down one at a time, and Elazer's starting to look very desperate, swapping into Hydralisks, but will it be enough, Caleris?
Difficult. 51 roaches against 29 with the 3 Infestors in tandem, and he's lost so many more roaches because he's had to try and force the issue, unfortunately, here as Elazer. These Spike Crawlers are going to try and buy some time themselves. Infested Terrans actually rain down with extra fungal, actually hit some of those roaches up towards the top. Even the Contaminate to deny some of these extra little lava coming along. I'm not sure how much of an effect it will have in this fight directly, but now TLO is going to actually power on through a lot of these roach numbers. A few Banelings straggle on forwards to try and shut all of this down, but TLO's done quite a bit.
A heroic attempt from Elazer to defend here, but numbers are numbers. You can't fight the mass. There's just too much for TLO. He defended very well earlier. He managed to survive the dangerous timing, and these roaches are just closing in overwhelming numbers. The Hydralisks don't have anything in front of them. The Queens try to defend, but Elazer is forced to call GG.
Well done there by TLO, taking that first game. It was looking kind of difficult in the earlier stages. Elazer really kind of seized the opportunity to kind of take the game by the throat, but couldn't really round it out. I think you pointed it out where you had around, I think it was like 60 roaches against 40 roaches, maybe a little bit hesitant as to going into that engagement and trying to really grab the game there, but was that really where he kind of had to win that?
I think he committed so much to it that he definitely wanted to take a trade there, and maybe you know, it's one of the difficulties on Echo is this was the map TLO chose, so let's keep that in mind. And I feel like he was more mentally prepared on that map. He was faster to go to the Infestors, even though I felt he was behind after that nice speedling attack, picking off some drones. He then went for the Infestors. He decided to defend that choke point, and even though I think because Elazer had gotten enough little edges, I think he could have gone in and taken the trade. But you look at that choke point at the front, you see the concave of roaches, the spines, the queens, and you kind of just second guess yourself. And I think that moment of doubt did cost Elazer a chance to get in and at least take a very nice trade.
Oh well, that does it for game number 1. Of course, guys, we are going to go to a short break, and when we're back, it's game number 2 of the winners match between Elazer and TLO. So far, it's a good day for Germany here, as TLO is 1 game away from advancing onto the round of 16. And as I said before, he's oftentimes underrated in his WCS performances, but he keeps getting these consistent finishes. And if he can move on to the round of 16 as first place in this particular group, then that's quite an impressive feat.
Absolutely. I think, sometimes people expect too much of TLO because he's so well loved. He's been around since the early days playing GSL, and people just want him to win everything. But he's so consistent, and once in a while, and I think this is one of those seasons, he just absolutely astounds everyone, plays so well, and shows such creative, unique play.
It's funny because when I asked him before today began, I was like, how do you feel about your chances? He said, And I'm like, is that confidence? Isn't that confidence? I can never tell with Dario. But anyway, let's get into it. Game number 2, spawning up to the top left-hand corner. It is our red Zerg representing Team Extreme Supremacy. I love saying that name. It is Elazer. We've seen great stuff from him so far. Can he go the whole way? Against this man down to the bottom right-hand corner, it's our blue Zerg representing Team Liquid in true colors. It is TLO.
And it's going to be a really, really interesting game here. Very curious to see what builds come out. Once again, not seeing any early aggression from both players. Now, I think this map is maybe a little bit more friendly towards those tunneling claw roaches, those sort of aggressive mid-game plays. Not quite as easy to defend, but nonetheless, it's still pretty hard to attack here, and it's a very generic map, so there's so many options.
So let's elaborate on that a little bit more, because obviously you don't get many chances to cast with a pro Zerg player like yourself, Pig. So the tunneling claw roaches that we've seen quite a lot and pretty rampantly in the mid-game nowadays in Zerg versus Zerg, what makes this good for it? Is it the way the bases are laid out? How does it function?
Absolutely. The first thing you look at, and what a lot of people don't necessarily realize, is you just look at the number of avenues you can use to get into the bases. Because tunneling claw roaches, they're not only a sneaky option, but even if your opponent knows they're coming, because they regenerate so fast and they ignore units blocking them, they can often just run past an equal-sized defensive force and get past them, run past the overseer, get into the base, and once they're in the base, it's a nightmare hunting them down. So on Echo, because the third base is so close to that front area between the natural, it's kind of counts as just one defensive area. A single overseer or two, your army is all pretty much in one blob and it kind of protects everything. Here on Coda, on the other hand, we are going to have the area out front the natural and then also the area a bit further to the side at the third base. So it's a little bit harder to defend against that.
All right, well, we'll see if that comes along. Could quite easily here. For people like TLO. He's already going for his gas though, so kind of mixing things up from the previous game. Is this gas timing here for TLO playing more to this map in particular than it did to Echo?
It's kind of interesting because we've seen the reversal in builds, and then Elazer's playing the pool first, and this time TLO's playing the hatch pool and the gas. It's not an especially fast gas though. This isn't the sort of one where you might have seen someone like Golden in the past last year, get the gas immediately after the hatchery goes down and charge out with speedlings. But it gives TLO a lot of flexibility here. He has a lot of choices. Most often you'll be going into a sort of Zergling, Baneling style. Whether it's aggressive or defensive, no one knows. I think Mutalisks are a good choice from here though. And Elazer's coming across with those Zerglings now to try and get that scout off in the near future.
All right, well, TLO a lot of times has been able to actually block Zergling scouts when he's seen them coming along, be it a queen at the ramp with 2 Zerglings or a queen and a drone even. But it looks like he's not too eager about making that kind of thing happen, as these 2 Zerglings for now are just going to dance on around.
And Elazer's already seen everything because it's this small two-player map. He's seen the gas timing. He's seen exactly what's going on. He's not too worried about getting in the main base there at all. TLO dropping an evolution chamber. Now look at this. I think this is a carapace. There's no link speed started. So notice around the time that evolution chamber finishes, we're going to see about 150 gas in the bank, and he can go carapace before Zergling speed, which is a very, very powerful upgrade for those sort of fast Ling floods.
Well, is there any particular reason you get the carapace before the Ling speed? Is it but he's actually going range. This is kind of what I was saying about before, with how Snoot actually played out some of the more defensive styles, but this is quite sneaky.
It's even faster than that one.
Yeah.
I've seen some builds like this. I think if memory serves, TLO did play one of these this sort of opening against Nurtio in his challenger match, and interestingly, still going for a very fast lair with it. This is a fascinating style. Looks like it's just going to be a roach-based play. He's dropping the roach horn, but a very, very risky opening. Noticing that Elazer's got the late gas, I guess it's not risky because he knows what's going on. He's seen this. He's kind of decided, I think I'm in a pretty good spot. I can take this sort of chance. And on the other side, we see Elazer getting the Baneling Nest, getting the Spine Crawler, playing very, very safe. But hey, there's not even a Zergling speed started. So TLO, I think, is taking a little bit of an edge in the builds.
Yeah. With no aggression coming along just yet. I mean, the 8-lings are on the way here for Elazer, but two of those Banelings, or two of those Lings, I assume, are more often defensively technically rallied over, but they will take a little while to get over there. So is TLO looking to capitalize on just having roach speed much earlier than his opponent here and trying to catch him off guard? How do these things line up with what we're seeing right now?
Interestingly, TLO does have about a 5-6 drone lead, so this opening has given him a nice little edge here. As long as he can defend these Zerglings coming across the map without too much trouble, with 8 roaches, shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
He's actually in a very good position economically, but look at those upgrades. His +1 range is so fast, and it's not necessarily for a +1 range attack. His roach speed isn't done, but the +2 will be very powerful.
Well, his Ling's already in here and getting a few drones for the troubles, which isn't too bad. He sees plenty of roaches, though, has to get on out. But now this is where, obviously, TLO takes quite the swell in supply and an advantage, as roaches are pretty supply-heavy. Just a few Lings on the way for Elazer.
The thing is, with +1 kicking in this fast, those Zerglings aren't really going to do a lot. They're going to have to kind of intercept reinforcements, try to counterattack. They need to try and pull TLO home. And this is a really hard position because we see Elazer once again reacting with the fast third base and so on. He's going to try and go towards these roaches, but he really cannot take this fight. But it's too late to go across the map. Elazer's backed into a corner. I don't think he can hang on to this third base.
+2 even starts as well here for TLO as these roaches are now marching on forwards. Is this enough Zerglings? I mean, 10 roaches are in production, but he's already on top of this position.
He needs to buy his time. The roaches are about to pop. These Zerglings are evaporating, though. Already TLO forcing such a big response, and it looks like this is going to be a very nice trade for TLO. He should eventually get deflected, but just picking off what he can here. And now, as those last roaches pop out, he does need to get out of there.
And it brings a few of them down as they're popping. Glare of Constitution about to finish up as well. So the roaches of Elazer can't really pursue. If they go too far on the map against roaches that do have speed, it's almost a disaster if any more reinforcing roaches are on the way. And TLO is continuing to make roaches at the moment.
Exactly. Look at this. He's using his mobility to limit the third base of Elazer. Yeah. And he's probably at some point going to decide, you know what? I think I'm going to go into drones, but for the moment, I'm going to see what I can get out of this. I'm going to push this upgrade lead. I know I'm ahead in my upgrades. I know I'm ahead in my roach speed. Let's do this.
Yeah, the roach speed thing's huge. Elazer is nowhere near having his roach speed just yet. So for Elazer, he has to play so defensively in this situation. The numbers are very close to one another, so maybe a direct engagement isn't exactly the best thing, but of course, as you're saying, he has that mobility factor.
And it's the threat. When these guys are on your side of the map, look at this. Elazer has no freedom to drone. He's even, having to pull drones back, getting a roach picked off here or there. These trades aren't absolutely amazing for TLO, but what's he done behind this? He's squeezed in another 8 or 9 drones. He's gone up to 53 drones, and look at that +2 timing. We were talking about it before. That +2 timing is what is the real strength of TLO's build. If he can just force a relatively equal roach versus roach fight, and then have that +2 faster, that'll be great. And this is brutal. Is he even going to get that third hatchery?
I think so. Yeah, he underestimated the potential of TLO just sticking around, and he actually moved a lot of his roaches towards the middle of the map here to Elazer, really kind of not getting in the best position at all. So, well, for now,
interestingly enough, Elazer's cancelled +2 range. He's actually deciding to go all in here. Maybe losing the third is not too bothersome because he just wants to attack. He just just wants to try and finish this.
If TLO buys 8 seconds worth of time, he's going to have +2 weapons. Is this enough here for Elazer? I mean, he's going to have to force the fight now, but +2 weapons kicks in as we speak. Burrow's just about to finish as well, so he could even burrow some of these units if he wants to. TLO at the moment, he's going to have the better reinforcement point. He's going to have those queens able to lava inject. Keep that going on. There you go. GG. TLO takes it. And he takes first place here in Group F in the round of 32 in one of the hardest groups in the round of 32.
What a dominating performance there. That final game, just going for that crazy fast evolution chain with, really fast upgrades, really unique playstyle. That anti-timing at the end there, with the +2 kicking in just as the fight begins. It's got to be a hard way to lose that game for Elazer.
Yeah, I would say so. That being said, he's not down and out, of course. He will be playing in our last match of the day. He goes up against quite the fearsome opponent in Polt, though. But let's go back to TLO. What a result from him. Not only able to defeat Season 1's champion, but also, able to defeat Elazer here, who has shown great promise with the opponents that he's defeated.
Elazer played really, really well. You got to hand it to him. Those were well-played games, but TLO he was just a little bit ahead, and he showed 2 very different styles. A very defensive style. He really showed he understood how Echo worked, and then on Coda, he showed that more aggressive, very unique style where, he took a bit of the kind of bare bones early game, and he just had such a beautiful plan with those roach upgrades lining up.
Oh, well, that does it from us here at the Caster's Desk. Let's head over to the analysis one with Sean Apollo Clark and, of course, Hannibal Lurker.
What can I say? TLO's like, what can I do? TLO, you came into a very difficult group. You are first place. You're going to Toronto, Canada. You're going to be representing Germany. It's a massive moment for you. But I got a surprise for you, TLO. I want you to look behind you. What's that, TLO? What is it? For Deutschland, you're going to Canada, you're going to be representing everyone here, of course representing Team Liquid with the first 2 members going through with Bonnie and Rhett. You must be feeling fantastic at this moment.
Yeah,
I asked you this before and you're like, it's not over yet. It is now.
I'm a little bit surprised, to be honest. I didn't expect to go first place at all. I played very badly in my preparation. I didn't hit top 50 Grandmaster for a while because I felt so bad about my play. So I was, Season 1 was pretty good. Season 2, I made it to Premier. But, it went much better than I played in practice. And, that's what I'm really happy about because it used to be completely the other way around. And it's kind of like, it's better to do well in tournaments than on ladder.
Ladder points do matter, Dario.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, it's, let's get to the real talk, because at this point, now you've finished, you can really give us, the interesting part. What did you really think coming in today? Was it just a complete whitewash coming in? I'm going to do my best, I'm going to try to make these guys happy and then go home? What was it?
Well, I always expect to be able to win. It's not like I think, okay, well, I'm just going to, roll over and let it happen to me.
Couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah, but, I'm trying my best, obviously, always, and it worked out.
Congratulations. Roddy, you want to ask us a question?
We can talk a little bit about the games, because I felt in game number 1, Elazer opened up pretty strong. You went for more of, as you call, the snoot build with delayed gas. Why do you love that build so much, and why did you think it was going to go well for you in game 1? That was Echo, right?
Yeah, Echo.
Well, I like to open up with a gas pressure, with like a speedling pressure into very fast Evo chamber in the wall. Mm-hmm. But it's abusable by exactly what he did, getting 2 very quick banelings out and then a speedling pressure. So I kind of expected him to trying to counter that and do early damage, and it worked out because he went ling baneling very lightly. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't really behind then, but when I let the links in, yeah, that was kind of bad.
Was it on purpose that you went for the full wall off?
Yeah. You don't want to mess around with that, because you can always cancel the Evo if you're confident, but
you need to start building up hit points in the evolution chamber in case your opponent goes like full bane laying all in from there. I didn't have the vision for that.
It was like a pretty even game from that point, as obviously you lose a little bit, but I felt like the moment where he kind of dragged you out of position, a couple of links ran into your main base, it felt, and the numbers were speaking for itself, that like you were in a pretty difficult position. Were you feeling like that as well, or did you feel like, well, I can still turn this around?
Well, I didn't feel so good about that, obviously, but in CVC, like then from that point I went into, okay, I'm gonna have to be in full defense mode, because defender's advantage, especially on Echo, is pretty strong in CVC. So my biggest fear from there was that he's just gonna infestor it up, Hydra it up, take a fourth, and just be ahead and I can't do anything about it. But when I saw that he's pressuring with roaches, only has 5 gas and keeps making roaches, I was very happy about the situation, because I'm behind, but from there I can actually come back again.
All right, well, I got 2 questions here for you. First of all, how does it feel, to be first place today, to know that your brother's in the crowd watching you? How does that feel for you? That he's traveled with you here to support you?
Well, I mean, obviously I'm very grateful, and especially the last times I really disappointed him. Like whenever he was here in the studio, I lost, and I kind of wanted to make up for that.
All right, and last question then. How does it feel going to Canada, knowing that you're going to play in front of that crowd? Everyone's very excited about this tournament.
Yeah, I love it. Going to Toronto is definitely a huge prize by itself already. I have never been in Canada. The StarCraft crowd there is absolutely crazy. So I'm definitely... It's probably the event I've been looking forward, like the city to go to. I've been looking forward the most.
We're going to have a hard training TLO ready to represent Germany then. Over in Canada.
Yeah, maybe this time I can hit top 16 Grandmaster in preparation.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, first place finisher. It never gets old, it never gets old. Let's take a quick look at the bracket as we have our first place finisher. We just mentioned TLO now confirmed by the bracket as the first place finisher of Group F. Which leaves us with one final game. Unfortunately, Elazer, the loser of that match, now gets put down in a very, very difficult position now. He is the one that must go up against the Season 1 champion. He started the day strong against Major. Can he end it? This is going to be a difficult one. Stay tuned. We'll find out how this is going to go.